My name is Adrian Nantchev, and this channel is all about helping you become a remarkable entrepreneur. So today I'm joined with Alex Van Aken to talk about supplements really. Alex, please tell us what you do, what's your story, what you're doing, what you believe in, and what difference you want to make in the world.
Well, I think that for the sake of context, my story starts back in high school when I was first being taught about entrepreneurship. I took at least three years worth of classes on how to start and grow your own business. But all throughout school, I just never really thought that was for me. I just never saw myself as a businessman or an entrepreneur or anything like that. However, about 4 years later in college, I started seeing these bumper stickers that say that there's poison in the water. Now that probably seems like a stretch right there, but after I saw a couple bumper stickers, I, started looking into what these bumper stickers were referring to. And so very, very quickly, I found out that the poison on these bumper stickers that they were referring to was fluoride, and that it wasn't even their opinion that it was poison, but initially, before fluoride was added to water, it was actually just used for poison to kill things like rats. And, I live in Florida where they still use fluoride to kill mosquitoes. So this was very, very crazy news for my life, because I had been absorbing fluoride, in all my water and in my toothpaste for, at least 19 years. So almost 2 solid decades of, absorbing this poison that I was already familiar with, but not as familiar as I should have been. So basically, I started immediately looking into things that you could take to help get this stuff out of your body, because after a little bit of searching, I found out that these doses of fluoride are actually bioaccumulating doses, meaning that it doesn't really matter how much you absorb in a single day. What matters is that these doses are, for the most part, staying in the body, and so they're actually absorbed into what they call calcifying tissues. And obviously the most famous that we're familiar with is the teeth. The teeth are highly calcifying tissues. And so, but there's 2 other places that this fluoride can go, one of which is in the bones, and another one is the pineal gland. And when I was first learning this info out, I had literally just started studying psychology in college. And so this was just a huge slap in the face of information. First, to find out that I had been bathing literally in poison, my whole life. But then I find out that it's harming one of the most beneficial parts of the brain. I mean, it's right at the top of the spinal cord in the back of the brain. So this was really like a going down the rabbit hole kind of thing for me. And so very quickly I started scouring the internet for to find out what people are taking to help kind of negate the effects of this poison. And I found out that basically on every single website I checked, there was this recurring item, and it was called MSM. And at the time I was completely brand new to it, but I was willing to try it. MSM it's a naturally occurring sulfur compound. And, unfortunately, it's not really as naturally occurring today as it should be, because our soils are just completely depleted. And, well, not completely depleted necessarily, but, they're on the way there. And so this is one of those things that's really great to supplement, is MSM. And honestly, it's such a great thing to take that it's probably been hands down the most life-changing ingredient that I've come across. And so basically what happened was I just started recommending this supplement to everybody. I didn't have, massive amounts on me, so I would just have them go to, whatever store they wanted to go to, and then they would buy it there. Eventually I became so passionate about this subject of the accumulation of this, we'll just call it crap for lack of a better word, in the brain. These fluoride deposits and these calcium deposits, which are correlated together. I became so fascinated and so drawn into this subject that I had to take the opportunity to give a TED talk about it. And so in the middle of college, I actually gave a short TED talk about, how people can have this bone thing in their brains. And even right at the end of that talk, I did what I was doing, and I recommended MSM and a few other things to people. And it was only until, like a year or so later that I started realizing that there's not only a ton of brands out there making this MSM stuff, but some of them are just fake. I mean, I was trying every brand. I tried, every single brand of MSM I could get my hands on. And some of them, you could physically feel that they were super potent. I'll get into a little bit more of the details after that. And then some of them, you could literally feel that nothing was happening, nothing that would normally happen when you take MSM. And so a lot of people wonder and ask me what would happen if you would take this pure substance of MSM. And long story short, one of the most interesting things that can happen is you can actually feel this small or maybe even large bone-like object in your brain start to slowly break down. And this is not just from personal experience at this point. This is literally something that hundreds, if not thousands of people have already told me that they have either experienced in the past or they're currently going through this. So this is just a really, really crazy worldwide phenomena. And ultimately, it's kind of going by the term of decalcification or pineal decalcification. So basically, I ended up finding out that some people would have the great effects and then some people wouldn't. And so that led me to find out that they were buying through these not so reputable corporations. We'll leave them unnamed for sake of not throwing dirt on people. But some of these huge supplement corporations were really, screwing a lot of people out of their money, by just selling them some fake supplements. And so that was really the point at which I decided, you know what, I am going to start doing everything I can to make sure that when I recommend a supplement to somebody, it's the best. And it's as good as it could possibly be for them and for the planet and all of that good stuff. And so this was really what got me set on this path, was realizing that I had some way to help in a way that it was really a niche, a very, I mean, it's still a niche, but at the time it was a very, very small niche of very conscious-minded people who just want to heal their bodies. And so basically, people were telling me, hey, Alex, if you're making money off this, eventually you're legally going to have to make this a company and everything. And so that's how Seat of the Soul Supplements was born. And so basically it was all born out of me realizing that I could help more than these supplement corporations and whatnot. And so it started out real small with me just selling supplements locally in Florida. But eventually I started, I at the time I was mainly just on Instagram, and I started getting some international inquiries, and before I knew it, I was shipping to Canada, and very quickly I started shipping to Denmark, Norway, Germany, the Netherlands, Spain, Italy, the UK. I shipped to Mexico. I mean, it just started taking off so fast. that it was really a huge, huge surprise. But what's really even crazier than that is the amount of repeat clients I've gotten. They've actually liked the supplements so much that people, really don't want to stop taking them. And honestly, I take them myself, so I can relate to that. But yeah, no, it's really cool. It started completely grassroots, me just, investing what little bit of money I had into, making supplements for people. And, before I knew it, I was filing it as a business. And, now it's one of my favorite businesses. I don't know if your business can be your favorite business, but I really, really feel good about what I do. Because I literally help people sleep better at night. This pineal gland, I mentioned it for a second. It's responsible for a lot of your melatonin, which literally is what's going to let you sleep or what's going to keep you awake, is either your supply or your lack of melatonin. So ironically enough, when I was first learning this information, I was turning into an insomniac. So I was in my early days of college. It would take me a couple hours to fall asleep at night. And that is not how it's supposed to be. If it's nighttime, you're supposed to just crash. I mean, you're supposed to fall asleep very easily, is my point. And so basically, I was starting to already show signs of, an inactive pineal gland myself, and I didn't even realize it. So this has just been very groundbreaking and life-changing for myself and so many others. And honestly, I'm really happy and satisfied and proud of what this mission has turned into, not only for me and for others. And now I'm even starting to branch out, and I'm starting to accept people as distributors. And so that's really cool. So I'm starting to kind of expand and grow, which is, really, really awesome. And I'm overall just really grateful for my opportunity to help in this world, honestly.
Well, that sounds amazing. And MSM, what does that stand for exactly? Methyl?
Yeah, so it's methyl sulfonyl methane. It's a real mouthful. But if you go to the supplement aisle in most stores, a lot of times what you'll see is it'll either be just pure MSM or it'll be in what they call a joint complex. Because really the main thing that they advertise it for is that it's good for your joints, which is kind of like a mixture of soft and hard tissue. And honestly, it's really great at breaking down unwanted calcifications. Like in your joints, for example, would be a bone spur. I don't know if you've ever heard of anybody that had a bone spur, but it's basically a small calcification, which is essentially the same thing that can build up around and also within this small gland in our brains. But yeah, so methyl sulfonyl methane, it's a naturally occurring sulfur compound.
And with that compound, can't it be also found in certain food, naturally occurring?
Yeah, of course. And so actually, some people have actually told me that they have gotten fantastic results from, what was now known as pineal decalcification from literally just eating a raw diet. Now, I can't vouch for, where these people were getting their produce from. But I honestly don't know if that's even possible, where I live, at least, you know what I mean? Because we don't really know where a lot of our produce is coming from. And a lot of the times the soil is just getting worse every year. So I think something should be done about getting this natural sulfur, not only back into our bodies, but back into the soil. Because the earth was really supposed to be the number one supplier of this stuff. But, we live in this postmodern age where, the soils are depleting. There's a little bit more, pollution in the air and the water and the soil. And honestly, it's just really great to supplement some stuff and to not rely on, whatever tiny like micrograms or millionths of a gram that we're getting in our diet. Um, I think it's best to take, a couple grams a day. And that's probably what you'll find if you look online about a reference amount for how much you should take. Usually they say, I mean, you can take anywhere between a couple grams a day and like 20 grams a day. I mean, your body can handle a huge amount of MSM. And actually, sulfur is one of the most abundant elements in our whole body is sulfur. It's all over our body. But yes, so unfortunately, we can't really trust the food supply so much anymore just because we don't really know what's in the soil anymore. We don't really know if we're getting what we need. It's unfortunate.
Yeah, definitely. You don't know what's happening in the world now, and it's funny you should mention raw diet, because as of lately, past month or so, roughly, been experimenting with that, or the past few weeks at least, experimenting with raw food and edging towards veganism, just to experiment, explore, see what happens, see how I feel.
That's awesome.
So far, no real difference. I've been trying some dry fasting as well recently, and water fasting. I did a 5-day water fast, again, just to experiment. I've heard about some of these new things and raw food diet and how it affects the health, but MSM, never heard of that. And the pineal gland, I've heard of it before, but what kind of signs are there for calcification? What kind of things to look out for? Because when we talk about the symptoms, when we talk about the pineal gland, that has also some spiritual meaning and some spiritual significance as well, with regards to the body and kundalini and things like that. So what kind of signs and symptoms should you look out for?
So honestly, symptoms for having a calcified pineal gland, some of the biggest things, and some of these have actually already been studied by scientists and correlated, but some of the biggest things are things like headaches, migraines, and also the inability to sleep well or to stay asleep. A lot of people say they fall asleep fine, but then they wake up after 2 hours and they can't even go back to sleep. So they call it the body's biological clock. So it is literally like your little internal alarm clock that's supposed to make you go to sleep when it's right and make you wake up when it's right. However, this thing is so centrally located in the brain that it has huge veins right next to it. So there's really no room in the brain for this gland to begin hardening and enlarging. There's just no room in there. And so basically what can and does happen, and you could even just do a web search and look calcified pineal gland brain scan or CT scan. These calcifications can actually start pushing up against other parts of the brain. So after a certain point, it becomes not even just calcified pineal gland, but just calcified brain in general. And honestly, one of the biggest things I started noticing almost immediately when I stopped using fluoride toothpaste, I started avoiding drinking fluoride water. Unfortunately, I was still showering fluoride because, we aren't really given a choice in that. That's the whole thing. This is a drug that's being forced onto people, which is wrong. So once I had started cutting back on my fluoride, and once I had started taking MSM, one of the first things I noticed was that the pressure in my head started changing. And this was a pressure that I didn't even realize was there. This was head pressure that I was just living with, and I didn't even realize it. And so basically every single day, I would take MSM, in the morning and at nighttime. And the next day I would wake up and I would have less head pressure each day. And so, a week went by, less head pressure each day. And so when that happens, the best way to describe that feeling is feeling brand new. Literally feeling brand new every single day. And this is why I became so passionate about this, is because nothing has changed my life more. I mean, I might be, addicted to sleeping pills right now if I didn't find out about this stuff, because, I really needed to change my life fast. I needed to start sleeping better, get better quality of sleep. I needed to ditch this head pressure, which was creeping up. And one of the biggest things, and honestly, this has kind of almost gone down in infamy for some people, just because it's so crazy to experience. But once you get to a certain point, you can even feel this. I mean, the best way to describe it is like just like a snapping or like a popping sound. Have you ever had like the wishbone of a turkey or something like that? It's this bone that like two people would pull on, and then
yes.
and then it snaps, right? It's
Yeah.
it's literally just like that snapping sound, like a small bone snapping, except instead of that sound coming from the outside of your head this is almost kind of like an internal sound going outwards. Almost kind of like how your own voice is an internal sound. You kind of hear that sound go up from your throat into your head. You don't really it doesn't like, you know what I mean? It's an internal body sound that no one is really used to. And it's really funny because, right off the bat, all the skeptics were like, you know what? That's placebo. You're an idiot, Alex. And it's really funny because something happened that is so impossible for this to be placebo that it's just remarkable. And so basically what happened this one time, I've felt this popping sensation multiple times. Most people do feel it more than once. Usually there's one really big one. But it can be regular to have multiple of these sensations over time. And one time I was talking to my she's ex-girlfriend, we'll say, keep anonymous. And so basically I was talking, and in the middle of my sentence there was another one of these popping sensations. And right when this happened, you know how like when you're talking sometimes your voice cracks, and almost every single time it cracks, it cracks up. You know what I mean? And a lot of times it's this embarrassing thing because your voice just cracked up and your voice shoots up real high. Well, this, for the first time in my life, was my voice cracked down. And it wasn't this temporarily, it just shoots down and it's a lower voice. But my voice permanently changed right in the middle of this cracking sensation. And that's something that really, you recognize your voice better than anybody. You know what I mean? So you realize when your voice changes even slightly. And so basically what was really crazy was, the person next to me, she heard the cracking sound. And so what some people claim is a total placebo is now an actual auditory stimuli. It's this actual cracking sound that other people can hear. And so if this happens to you, other people can hear this small cracking sound in the room, which is pretty crazy. That was the first time anybody else had heard, this cracking sensation as it was happening to me. And so that was pretty intense. And honestly, that's probably the number one symptom to look out for when you are trying to decalcify is not only this decreasing of the head pressure, but also this eventually, it's almost like this hard shell that builds up on this gland just starts cracking away, almost like if it's a small egg, right? And like a chicken or something is coming out. And that I couldn't even begin to, this would be an all day podcast if we were going to go into all the details, but really feeling the inside of your brain start to disconnect from something that isn't really you. It's not your cells. It's fantastic. It's almost like this hard scab in there that is just slowly scabbing away and breaking apart. And honestly, it's fantastic. And honestly, I don't know if there is a single other thing out there, health wise that I could recommend for people who are suffering from things like insomnia and headaches and migraines and stuff. As far as detoxing goes, I really do think. I'm as confident in this as I am in anything, and I've been called so many different names and stuff. And at the end of the day, I changed my life in a way bigger way than I thought was possible. And I know for a fact, I get messages all the time, and a lot of these people who didn't know about this stuff either, they take my advice, and honestly, this could be seen as a pun or a play on words, but it helps me sleep at night. You know what I mean? Knowing that I am, doing my best to help people and putting the health of those people first. I really, it makes me feel great to be a part of something so big.
That's great. That means you're on the right track. We're doing something positive for the world. Also, you mentioned detox. I'm very curious then, and also you mentioned the shower as well and toothpaste. How would you go about testing for fluoride in your water at home?
That's a good question. The thing about fluoride is that the way they're administering it is so half-assed that really there is no doctor keeping track of anything, which is always the case with any drug. And so basically, there's just a guy who's got to wear a rubber suit and a respirator so he doesn't touch or breathe any of this stuff. And basically, at a certain point of the day, he just takes this huge container and dumps it into the city water supply. When we hear 0.08 parts per million fluoride, we picture this guy in this fancy laboratory, and he's got this like little millimeter or milliliter dropper, and he's dropping the fluoride in very carefully, but it's not that case at all. It's literally being dumped in, by a huge barrel or a huge container. And about monitoring the fluoride levels at your home, you can do that. You could go and buy a fluoride water test kit. But even better than that, you could save some money, and you could just go online to your local utilities company, and they should have a water report. And on that water report, it should have every single thing that they found in the water. And so they are probably using some superior water inspection technology. And what's really messed up is that they don't even hide where they get the fluoride. And if you look on your local water report, it'll tell you where every ingredient comes from. Some of them are natural, So, for example, there could be a small level of bacteria in the local water, and it'll just say naturally occurring. But right next to the fluoride, they'll say that they got it from some kind of phosphate fertilizer company or something like that. It's basically just toxic waste from some huge factory, and that's the main source of fluoride nowadays is toxic waste. And so it's really unfortunate, but this is something that is very heavily, just dumped into the water. And what's really crazy is that since they're dumping it all in all at once, you have this larger amount of it in the water, right when they dump it in. And then, as the day goes on, it dilutes itself into the rest of the city's water. However, if you're taking a shower, right after they dump that into the city's water, you're really absorbing, that peak amount of fluoride for the day. And honestly, I didn't even realize this at first, but the skin is our body's largest organ, right? So trillions of cells, and every single one of those cells is capable of absorbing this fluoride in the shower and putting it in your bloodstream within like 30 seconds. So that was really a huge slap in the face too, because we all love taking our hot showers, right? Just because that feels so good. And that's even worse because the hot water really opens our pores up. So once our pores are opened to the maximum in the hot water, that fluoride's flying in there even faster. And what's really messed up is that, it used to be a lot easier to filter it. Just any old regular charcoal filter, would actually, potentially help get some fluoride out. But unfortunately now, I can't vouch for the UK, but in the US, one of the main fluorides they add is called, it's got multiple names, but the main thing they call it is hydrofluorosilicic acid. And that's a mouthful right there. But it's basically a silicone-based fluoride, and the second they add it to the water, it dissolves immediately into free-floating fluoride ions. So basically, we went from having to filter molecules to having to filter straight-up atoms, and it is almost impossible to filter atoms out of your water. And so basically, one of the best methods for that is reverse osmosis. Reverse osmosis is one of the most reputable ways to get fluoride out of the water. But unfortunately, it's very expensive, so it's not accessible to everyone. And at the same time, we shouldn't have to. We're already paying for our local water. You know what I mean? So the concept of paying extra to poison it and then paying extra to unpoison it. It's almost like, we're just living in this really, really crazy time. You know what I mean? Where we're literally spending money, poisoning our communities and stuff. And, there are some communities that they learn about this and they, almost immediately, petition to have it ended. And I actually petitioned to have it ended in college, but it's just so damn hard. You need like a ton of manpower. I tried to knock this out as a school project. I petitioned. We got thousands of signatures from people in the local area who didn't want fluoride in the water anymore. And unfortunately, they just make a lot of hoops to jump through. As far as filtering it out of your own water, and as far as, trying to get it banned in your local area. But in the end, when it all boils down to it, it's illegal because it is medicating people without their consent. And, ever since, I forget which amendment it was, but there was some kind of amendment to the Constitution where you have the right to reject any kind of medical treatment, including the use of drugs. And I think that, it's really funny. There's this huge anti-drug campaign, say no to drugs, but in the end, the government isn't even giving us a choice, and they are pounding us with this very obviously toxic drug every day. And I think that that's inherently wrong. And I think that there's millions, if not billions, of people who would agree that medicating somebody with a toxic drug beyond their will there's something very, very wrong with that. And it's been called the most barbaric means of administering a drug to anybody ever. Just the fact that we've been fluoridating for who knows, at least 75 years now. I think that's ridiculous. And initially, the only reason that even happened is because every single day there's these huge factories producing fluoride, and they have two options. They can either spend money disposing of it, or they can make money by selling it as a commodity. And so, I mean, we all know what they started doing. They started selling this toxic waste, and now it's actually shot up in price. So it's like this huge, huge mess. So now we have this toxic waste that we are being made to buy, and the price is going up. So it's like, I mean, it's almost like you could watch what's going down on Earth from another planet and just go, wow, man, is this based on a true story, or is this just some crazy, crazy sci-fi movie or something? I mean, there's some really crazy stuff going on. And yeah, so unfortunately, I recommend taking a real quick shower. If anybody who's listening to this is in a fluoridated area, I recommend keep the shower. You know, if you can't keep it under 5 minutes, 5 to 10 minutes. I would try to shower in. Definitely don't wait till you're pruny to get out, because at that point, you're just a big fluoride sponge, and you know what I mean. So yeah, so I don't know. Did I answer your question about in the shower? And I guess you brought up toothpaste also. Toothpaste has a much higher level of fluoride in it, but ironically enough, inside that small pea-sized amount that they recommend, since they legally have to recommend pea-sized amount since it's so poisonous, inside that pea-sized amount is the exact same amount that would be in an 8-ounce glass of fluoridated water. And so it's like there's this immediate contradiction between their recommendation and how we're actually being treated, how our water is being treated. So it just makes no sense. So it's like, warning, don't swallow the toothpaste. Oh, but if you got to drink 8 to 10 glasses of water today and all that has fluoride in it, and then if you got to go take 2 showers a day, all that fluoride's fine. You know what I mean? And it's just absurd to say that, this tiny amount of poison, oh no, don't consume that. Oh, but if you space it out over the whole day, you're just consuming poison all day, then it's no big deal. So it's like really any, sane adult, in this situation, talking to a doctor about this is just going to be outraged, you know what I mean? Finding out that we're actually paying extra for toxic waste. I mean, it's just absurd in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely crazy. I mean, it's easier. You talk about, going back a little bit, you said that we're paying extra to poison ourselves, and then some people would pay extra to remove the poison and just cut the middleman out and get rid of the poison in general. So that's why that petition you ran was pretty cool, damn good cause.
Yeah.
Just a shame that all the loopholes and the bureaucracy that stopped that movement from gaining steam and gaining momentum.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
But before we start to wrap this up, what is it you're doing now with your company? What's next for you?
Well, basically, I'm just trying to expand in the best ways possible. It's really my dream to have a really awesome foundation behind my company, to help give back to communities. And honestly, I think that it would be really cool to have, this system where, every certain number of sales, or maybe even match the sales, I would have, this foundation and be able to make these bags of items, and, have a small thing of my supplements, some clean water, and maybe like a peanut butter sandwich or something, just some kind of easy, small meal that most people would like. And I even team up with a small toothpaste company here in Florida. So what my dream is really to to give back as much as possible to those who need it. I get asked for money on the street by homeless people all the time. I just really wish that I could have, some health supplies, goodie bag type things to hand out. I think that would be fantastic. I've already started making moves to make my business as green as possible. So, I try to use as much recycled materials and minimize my plastic consumption and, the carbon footprint and whatnot. So I've really been making moves to just make this business as good for the planet and for the people on this planet as possible. And so, yeah, honestly, to answer your question, I really think that my next move, I want it to be a reputable charity where I, send a certain percentage of the funds in and use that to just really help all those people who don't even have internet connection. All these people who would never find out about these supplements or about fluoride, for example. And honestly, I just think it would be really, really awesome to have a very reputable and good-hearted charity behind the company. A lot of charities nowadays, you hear that the CEO of this charity is some huge millionaire or something, and it's like the charity isn't even doing what they're supposed to do. And it's really unfortunate to hear things like that. And honestly, that's my dream right now, is to have some kind of organization behind my company, which is, basically doing the same thing for people, but for free. And so this is something that I've kind of been telling people, is that once this company gets big enough, I want people to be enjoying its benefits for free, if possible. And so that could be, a while down the road. It could be in a couple years. So I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but I just really want this to be the best company making supplements out there. And, I'm even teaming up with other great companies who are making supplements and stuff. So I just really want this company to be the best thing possible for the world and for all the people enjoying the benefits of it. And honestly, I think that would be fantastic. And I think that would be, mission accomplished if I could, kind of transition to I already do giveaways. I'll mention that. I ship out stuff for free already. I just think it would be really cool to have an official organization, good-hearted organization behind the company. I think that that's a very popular thing nowadays, and I think that that's a very good thing that that's popular nowadays, is because we live in a world that's completely ran by greed for the most part. Not saying that the average person like you and I are really greedy, but the system that we are born into is inherently greedy. Right off the bat, your child's born, your hospital's hitting you with this fat bill, you know what I mean? And you don't want to think about money. You just birthed a child, you know what I mean? But we live in this very greedy world, you know what I mean? So I want to let people realize that I didn't get in this for the greed. I got in this to help people. And so that is really my ultimate goal.
I see, a very noble cause. And what is the best way for the audience to get in touch with you?
Well, honestly, there's a multitude of ways. I have Instagram and Facebook, and if they searched Alex Van Aken, like here it is, it's going to be in the YouTube title. If they search my name on the internet, my social media pages should come up. There's a couple Alex Van Akens on Earth, but I'm the only one doing this weird stuff. And so basically, they could search my name, or they could also search Seat of the Soul Supplements. And when they search that company name, all of the social media accounts for the company will also come up along with the company website. So either my name or Seat of the Soul supplements, and that would immediately come up for them on the internet.
That's good. I'll add those into the links in the comment below in the descriptions.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
But aside from that, Alex, it was really great having you on the show. Some very interesting topics and subjects mentioned. Very fascinating, and it was great having you on the show.
Yeah, thanks so much. I'm really grateful. I'm glad you contacted me. I was just on Steam the other day, and you sent me this very nice invitation, and I was shocked because I haven't really been asked to do anything like this, and honestly, I'm just really grateful for the opportunity to get this message out there, and I'd just like to thank you for that, man. I really appreciate it.
That's cool. Thanks a lot. It's great to know people that are interested and wanting to take part and actually share and talk to the world.
Grateful for the opportunity.
But aside from that, ladies and gentlemen at home, if you haven't already, click on the subscribe button below and press the bell notification right next to it for the latest uploads. How cool is that?